Though Joy Bahar never intended to spark a full-blown clash on national television, especially not with a long-standing colleague like Sunny Hostin, she ended up doing precisely that in a dramatic twist. In front of a massive audience of viewers, she found herself face-to-face with Sunny and responded with an unguarded directness few had witnessed from her before. This very public explosion originated from an unlikely source: Sunny's personal ancestry. Once primarily recognized for her determined stances on systemic racism, Sunny became the center of public attention after a startling genealogical finding revealed that her third great-grandfather had been a slaveholder. Although this discovery by itself would have been headline-worthy, it was the intense confrontation during which Sunny, in a visibly shaken moment, seemed to implicate Joy in the legal quagmire brewing around her that escalated everything into a viral firestorm. Joy's unflinching rejoinder, aired live, became an instant internet sensation. For months leading up to that incident, The View had tackled one controversial issue after another. Sunny had gained a reputation for her outspoken critiques of America's racial past, routinely calling out public figures whom she believed were downplaying the nation's injustices. She never hesitated to decry individuals who defended Confederate monuments or glossed over the enduring repercussions of slavery. But an episode of the popular PBS program Finding Your Roots delivered a curveball Sunny could not have foreseen. The show's researchers uncovered a branch of her family tree in the 1800s that included a slave owner. The initial shock was evident on her face, and viewers shared in her surprise. However, her reaction took a strange turn. Instead of offering the usual denunciations, Sunny momentarily chalked it up to the era in which it happened. Some supporters were sympathetic, noting that genealogy shocks can provoke complicated emotional responses, but critics, among them longtime fans, were unnerved by her quick dismissal of an ancestor's participation in such a grim chapter of history. This time, pushback wasn't limited to conservative voices alone. Some of Sunny's own admirers found her apparently lukewarm reaction difficult to reconcile with her track record of moral certainty. No one quite expected the magnitude of what followed until Greg Gutfeld of Fox News aired a stinging segment dissecting Sunny's response and labeling her stance as both pompous and hypocritical. Instantly, social media erupted with trending posts demanding to know why Sunny, who seldom hesitated to castigate others for moral failings, seemed to treat her own family's history of slaveholding so casually. Soon after, an equally dramatic revelation surfaced. Melania Trump had decided to pursue a $100 million lawsuit in response to remarks she considered harmful and defamatory. The headlines featuring Sunny's genealogical bombshell found themselves competing with this sensational development about Melania adopting a formidable legal approach. Although details of the lawsuit were hazy, Gutfeld skillfully linked the two stories on his show, positioning Melania Trump as someone taking strong action to defend her interests, while, in his eyes, Sunny sidestepped accountability for her ancestors' disturbing legacy. The resulting commentary ignited even more intense discussions online and in the media, placing a fresh spotlight on Sunny. Behind the scenes at The View, production staff grew nervous. Insiders whispered that Sunny's genealogical news, along with the uproar surrounding Melania's lawsuit, risked alienating advertisers and overshadowing the show's usual talking points. Some speculated that corporate sponsors were uneasy about the dual controversies, Sunny's ancestry and Melania's legal fight, and anxious about how much controversial or personal content should be tackled on a daytime talk show. Matters escalated when Sunny publicly hinted that Joy Bahar's lighthearted jabs, some referencing genealogical skeletons, and Sunny's outspoken criticisms of various public figures had fueled the very flames that drew Melania Trump's lawsuit into the conversation. Though Sunny stopped short of outright blaming Joy, the implication was glaring enough to alarm the production team. At that juncture, Joy, who had long promoted candid exchanges on air, resolved to speak her mind. It happened during a seemingly breezy discussion about legal woes facing prominent individuals. Sunny made a cryptic allusion to the way certain co-hosts pointedly turning toward Joy had pushed a narrative so forcefully that it practically handed ammunition to those, including Melania Trump, pursuing staggering lawsuits. The crowd immediately sensed the tension. Joy arched her eyebrows. A hush settled over the studio. A boundary had clearly been crossed. With considerable effort to remain calm, Joy asked Sunny to clarify her meaning. Sunny, though obviously aware of the live broadcast, pushed forward and insisted that if the speculation about certain figures had not been so relentless, they might have avoided these $100 million legal claims altogether. The silence in the studio was palpable as a stunned audience realized they were witnessing a live confrontation. In a departure from her usual comedic delivery, Joy paused, gathered herself, and launched a pointed counterattack. Her words, at once gripping and cutting, left viewers electrified. First, she reminded Sunny how often The View had provided her a platform to denounce all manifestations of racism, including the ongoing repercussions of slavery. Next, Joy spelled out the stark contradiction. How could Sunny, who regularly lambasted others for misconduct, appear so defensive or dismissive when her own ancestors' offense was laid bare? And why implicate Joy in Melania Trump's legal maneuvers, as if a bit of comedic or analytical commentary from inside their show was at the heart of the former First Lady's decision to file a lawsuit? At that moment, Joy effectively dismantled Sunny's attempt to shift blame. The co-host, generally poised, was visibly rattled by this unexpectedly intense comeback. Citing how Sunny had often criticized those unwilling to confront their roles in upholding discriminatory systems, Joy underscored that Sunny's reaction on Finding Your Roots was the real catalyst for the media storm, not Joy's commentary. Moreover, Joy questioned the logic of dragging her into the crossfire over Melania's legal challenge, a separate issue altogether. The tension in the studio was so thick that the energy crackled among audience members, who were riveted by the dramatic exchange. Cameras captured Sunny's startled gaze as she struggled to respond. Viewers followed along in stunned fascination. Social media exploded with clips of this moment, drastically stoking the flames already fueled by Sunny's genealogical disclosures and Melania's lawsuit. Hashtags multiplied, some lauding Joy for standing firm and calling out what they deemed Sunny's hypocrisy, others condemning Joy for humiliating a fellow host in front of a live audience. Radio talk shows speculated whether Joy and Sunny might mend fences off camera or if the fallout might endanger their working relationship. Rumors at ABC suggested urgent meetings among executives worried that this explosive feud could dismantle the delicate chemistry among The View's personalities. Yet the altercation also amplified the dialogue to an all-new level. Sunny's unexpected genealogical twist, Gutfeld's on-air critiques, and Melania's $100 million defamation suit melded into one sweeping saga about hypocrisy, accountability, and the dangers of comedic banter in an era charged with political tension. For many viewers, Joy's resolute pushback felt refreshing. Finally, Sunny was challenged on the blind spots in her own rhetoric. Though Sunny often demanded that historical figures be held accountable for crimes against humanity, she appeared hesitant to condemn her own ancestors' involvement in slavery with the same fervor. Then, by tying Joy's humor to Melania's legal battle, Sunny inadvertently provoked the co-host, who seemed the least likely to remain silent. In the days that followed, the two continued co-hosting, but the strain was unmistakable. Audiences tuned in with heightened curiosity, wondering if Joy and Sunny would address the confrontation directly or act as if nothing had occurred. Media critics published a wave of opinion pieces. Some commended Joy for confronting what they saw as selective moral outrage on Sunny's part. Others argued that Joy's response bordered on cruelty, blindsiding Sunny at a time when she was already grappling with personal revelations about her family's involvement in slavery. Still, others found that both women had inadvertently showcased how personal disclosures and public activism can collide in complicated, messy ways. All the while, Greg Gutfeld reveled in the spectacle, repeatedly playing Joy's fierce takedown in slow motion, while remarking that even Sunny's colleagues were questioning her moral high ground. Conservative commentators, especially those on Fox News, speculated that Sunny might have to apologize outright or face discord within the show that could jeopardize her position. ABC's public relations team issued a carefully worded statement, maintaining that The View would continue to be a platform for honest, spirited debates among the hosts, who still respected each other despite occasional disagreements. Behind closed doors, though, rumors swirled that showrunners were frantically trying to control the damage. The looming threat of Melania Trump's lawsuit only heightened the stakes. Any hint that conversation on The View might provoke a 9-digit legal action made network executives uneasy. Online, the drama took on a life of its own. Memes spread rapidly, featuring Joy's most emphatic facial expressions and Sunny's moment of shocked silence. Some social media users found the situation darkly comic, joking that the self-proclaimed moral crusader had now become a target of outrage herself. Others urged empathy, stressing that anyone confronted with such a distressing genealogical revelation might need time to process the idea that their ancestor had committed such a grievous act as slaveholding. However, these calls to understanding quickly got buried under the more headline-grabbing storyline. Joy Bahar had gone rogue and savaged her co-host on live television. The usual pace of a live daytime talk show meant The View couldn't remain fixed on one controversy indefinitely, but that didn't mean viewers forgot. Anytime Sunny shifted the discussion to systemic inequalities or brought up historical injustices, there was a lingering skepticism on social platforms. How could she so vigorously challenge everyone else's flaws if she hadn't thoroughly confronted the moral weight of her own lineage? Meanwhile, in subsequent broadcasts, Joy made subtle but unmistakably pointed remarks about hypocrisy and accountability comments the audience interpreted as aimed directly at Sunny. More twists materialized when word got out that lawyers representing Melania Trump were allegedly investigating whether remarks from The View might be folded into the $100 million lawsuit. It was unclear if this was just standard fact-finding or if Melania's legal team actually intended to expand the scope of their case. In any event, the looming possibility of legal entanglements hung over the show and ratcheted up the tension. Media veterans cautioned that in an era of heightened sensitivity, even casual talk show banter could trigger staggering legal risks. Amid all this uproar, Joy's live takedown of Sunny became the hallmark of one of daytime television's most turbulent seasons. For better or worse, it indicated that The View might approach future controversies differently, especially ones that touched on a host's personal background. Producers recognized that the audience, spurred by social media's immediacy, expected unfiltered candor. If a host was ready to skewer public figures for moral lapses, she should be equally prepared to confront uncomfortable truths about her own past. Joy's readiness to challenge Sunny live on air created a new standard of internal accountability for the show, albeit one that left many people reeling at the intensity. Over the following weeks, the initial firestorm receded somewhat, yet the undercurrents remained. Sunny gave a few carefully worded interviews, mentioning that coming to terms with her genealogical discovery had been emotionally taxing, and that she was still reflecting on how this revelation fit into her broader activism. She stopped short of a sweeping apology for initially downplaying her ancestors' actions, insisting it was a momentary lapse in judgment. However, she did note sadness that the uproar over her family background overshadowed her greater objective, raising awareness of systemic racism in American institutions. Asked about Joy's fierce rebuttal, Sunny offered a measured response, saying that The View's co-hosts sometimes clash on hot-button issues but continue to appreciate each other's perspectives and commitment. Joy, on the other hand, expressed little inclination to hide her frustration. In an interview, she admitted that though personal discoveries like Sunny's can be daunting, you can't demand everyone else examine themselves in the mirror if you're not equally ready to do so. Many saw this remark as Joy doubling down on her position from the on-air confrontation. To many viewers, that quote zeroed in on the heart of the controversy. If Sunny built her platform on demanding accountability, was it her responsibility to acknowledge her own ancestral connection to slavery with the same unwavering stance? Meanwhile, Melania Trump's lawsuit refused to disappear from the headlines, partly because Gutfeld kept contrasting Sunny's apparent evasion of her troubling family legacy with Melania's assertive efforts to seek legal redress. Though comparing old historical injustices to modern defamation cases seemed like a stretch, cable news personalities from Gutfeld to Joy transformed it into a rhetorical device for questioning Sunny's consistency. Some viewers thought that was ridiculous, while others saw it as a clever method of critiquing her approach to accountability. Throughout this saga, The View actually recorded a modest upswing in ratings, presumably driven by curious fans hoping to catch any hints of residual friction between Joy and Sunny. Every episode carried an undercurrent of tension, with audiences keenly observing their facial expressions and tone of voice. A few media commentators wondered if the dust-up had been orchestrated to boost viewership. ABC staffers denied those claims, emphasizing that the conflict was very real and not part of any plan. Ultimately, the dramatic clash between Joy and Sunny emerged as a milestone in the ongoing conversation about talk show etiquette, the difficulties of confronting one's own history, and the possible fallout of discussing personal matters in public. It highlighted just how fine the line can be between comedic commentary and raw, painfully real topics like slaveholding ancestors, systemic racial injustice, and defamation suits involving major political figures. It also illustrated how a single genealogical revelation could spiral into a mega scandal touching on questions of hypocrisy, the threat of a $100 million court case from a former First Lady, and a tense standoff between co-hosts who had once seemed aligned. When observers recall the episode in which Joy destroyed Sunny on television, they usually fixate on the lightning bolt of anger, the moment of speechlessness, and the ensuing social media frenzy. The deeper significance, however, lay in the clash of strong personalities and the spontaneous moral reckoning that occurred live on air. Although both hosts maintained their seats on The View afterward, the reverberations continued to influence the show's climate, compelling everyone involved to reconsider whether comedic barbs or personal stories carried responsibilities beyond mere entertainment. Time eased the immediate fury, yet Joy and Sunny's relationship continued under a cloud of unresolved tension that surfaced whenever the discussion touched on personal accountability or historical truth. The showdown remained a vivid reminder that on a program as culturally significant as The View, even well-rehearsed segments can burst into real conflict. Once that line is crossed, it can reshape the entire public conversation for weeks, if not longer. In the grand scheme, Joy's on-air counterattack became emblematic of the rifts that emerge when a social justice advocate faces unresolved aspects of her own family's past. It reinforced the idea that nobody, no matter how outspoken, can completely avoid the messy complexities of history. Some called it exhilarating TV at its most raw and unfiltered. Others saw it as a brutal confrontation that might have been handled more gently. Regardless of which perspective one took, Joy Bahar's salvo unquestionably altered the dynamic on The View and forced Sunny Hostin to confront a slaveholding legacy she had never anticipated grappling with so publicly or with such combustive energy.